and welcome to the new year. That year being 2025 or whatever crazy year you're listening to this in the future. But right now, it's 2025. Welcome to the new year. I'm still Kirk in this new year. This is still Dumb Tesla in this new year. And this is the first episode of the new year. I'm going to recap some old stuff that I'd never got to with my Christmas episodes, go into some new ideas and a fresh one. I got a fresh one, a fresh idea straight off the dome. But first, this episode is brought to you by the leftover pasta that I just reheated and that I made yesterday, which I'm calling and quoting or TMTM Big Pot Pasta because that's all I've made this year so far. I made it twice and it's been amazing. Gluten-free penne pasta, sausage, peppers, tomatoes, and shrimp. Just a big pot of pasta. It's the best way to start the year. But yeah, we're going to get into these new ideas, recap what I'm going to be working on this year right about now. Now time for some interactive fun. Yeah, so this is still Dumb Tesla, and if you don't remember, that's fair. It's a podcast where me and my mid-somethings try to come up with ideas for movies and TV shows, and sometimes comic books, sometimes whatever media you want to think of. I come up with random ideas from being bored at my office job, and sometimes I use AI to help me build out those ideas. And yeah, like last episodes were my Christmas episodes. I hope you liked them. Hope you listened to them. That was the end of 2024. Like I said, this is the beginning of 2025. And I was trying to think of how I'm going to start this year. The first thing I want to talk about, I like the Christmas idea episodes I did. They were like boy band ones and all that stuff. I hope you listened to them and liked them. Go back and listen to them if you missed them. It's always weird listening to Christmas stuff after Christmas and New Year's. It's like you don't want anything to do with holiday stuff right after the holidays, but maybe 2025 holiday season comes around, you listen to them. But there's one idea I was like kicking around in my head that I never got around to doing, just being busy the holidays. I always wanted to do kind of a creepy or scary or horror type holiday idea. And the one that kept kicking around in my head, I don't know why, it was going to be mixed of like a Bleakin or one of those like Christmas demons, holiday demons, but it'd be matched with the Warriors. So I was thinking like Santa gets kidnapped by one of these like Belschnickel or Bleakin demons that only children can see. And they're the only ones that realize Santa's been kidnapped, but it's like the Warriors. They have to make their way through New York in the 70s to save Santa because they're the only ones, A, who can see Santa, and B, see whoever this Christmas demon is. That was my idea. Maybe I'll renew it in a year's time at the end of 2025. But for this year, there's a couple of new ideas that I've been working around, like getting the ideas up that I'm going to go to. I have like the previous ones that the 1920s, was it the Muse That Follows idea that I started? I don't know how I'm not going to go with that because all like the background I do about that era of like fixers and stuff makes me really depressed about how people in charge rewrite especially LGBT people's that were in Hollywood at the time, their life stories. That made me say, especially with women who were, starlets and all that stuff, and how they really, their lives became controlled and hidden. It made me depressed. So I don't know how far I'm going to go with that. Maybe that'll be the setting and the backdrop, and I'll go more into the kind of suspense and supernatural ideas of that story. But there's a couple other ones. There's a time travel one I'm going to work on. There's an alien one. There's a afterlife one. There is a one about baseball. I might keep working on and just wait until like February or April, start of like spring training or the baseball season to come out with that one. That one's I'm happy about because I've really filled in the backstory with that one. But I need to read a couple more things to like a basis and reference for that one. But that one is going to be a big a couple episodes about that, the baseball one. Look out for that one. But like I said, I had a new idea that just like kicked me in the head recently. So I'll set it for you all. Because literally it came to me last week, the story. And then I was like, I'm trying to work out how I'm going to actually do this story. Okay. So some parts of this are real life and some parts are stories told to me. So take it with a grain of salt. Believe me if you want or not. Okay. So Pretense is a ghost story. Okay. So I was sitting having lunch with a couple of my bosses. And one of my bosses telling me a story. I don't know how we got to this story. We were talking about medical bills or something, and then jumped to the house that they're in now. I think they've been in there for 10, 15 years or something. But they said before, the people who lived there before the house went into foreclosure, and they hear their story from the neighbors after the years that it went into foreclosure because they had a young child who had a lot of medical problems, and the medical bills kind of racked up and they couldn't afford it. So they ended up having to go into foreclosure. And that's how my boss got the house for a good price. Good and, bad. And then she was telling me a story about like how her youngest daughter, a couple of times she would find her playing in the closet. Like, kids will play anywhere, and she would ask her what she was doing, and the daughter would say very creepily, because kids can be very creepy, that, oh, she's playing with this little boy Thomas. This little boy Thomas asked her to come in the closet and play, but her daughter would be by herself. Kids have this very strong sense of imagination. You never know what is actually, with the story they're playing and all that stuff. But she said it would happen a couple times, and it kind of creeped her out. And then she said one, like early on when they had the house, there's an attic, and my boss's husband went in the attic and they found this old crib. And then, nothing like, she said nothing creepy happened to her husband or anything like that. She said she would just find her daughter sometimes in the closet in their bedroom playing with her imaginary friend named Thomas, this little boy. And then later on, she talks to the neighbors and finds out the backstory about the people who lived there before and how they had this young child that was having these medical issues. And that's why the house went into foreclosure. Then she finds out that the child died in the house, unfortunately. And dun, 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 guess what his name was? Thomas. Yeah. So she put two and two together, that the crib in the attic and her daughter playing with the little boy named Thomas. And, that's the basis of the ghost story. If that's real or not, I don't know. That was the story I was told, and it blew my mind. It sent my mind running. I was like, okay, I got to make this a story, but how? Because the problem is, to me, that's a very creepy ghost story, but it's, as far as especially little kid ghosts, that's like been told many of times of, the little kid rolling the ball in the haunted hotel, or The Grudge and all this stuff, and all these backstories about, seeing little kid ghosts. It's been told a lot. It's kind of a basic story. It's kind of the one that you've probably heard many a times in many different ways, but I'm like, how can I turn this into a unique story? So I'm thinking, I have this backstory of, this is my boss I heard the story from, so I'm thinking about taking it into a work atmosphere. So that'd be the backstory. And it's like, my character is a new employee. So they actually do this thing at my job when you first start, like your boss or people you work under, your lead and management, all that stuff. They take you out to lunch to, talk to you away from work, get to know you, and you get to know, it's kind of like a relaxed thing. It's really cool. But that would be the setting where this is where I'm new to the company. My character, I should say, is new to this company, and he hears this ghost story from his boss, and it's like, it's just a story. He doesn't really know how to take it, but they go back to work, and I'm trying to think. Okay, it's either, so the company is either a toy company, which I've actually applied to work at a toy company. I didn't get the job, but so it's either a toy company. It's either like a publishing house that does kids books, like they're known for kids books. My character is like a writer, like he writes kids books. That's what he's like known for. He's an author for kids books. Or it's a production company or in a studio where they produce a kids show. The reason I want these is because this is how I get from the ghost story, that the typical ghost story in the house, to this office setting, is that my boss, her daughter has grown up. She's much older. And she brings her daughter into work one day, and my character that I'm writing from the perspectives of sees my boss and my daughter, but then he's introduced to them, and it's a very nice thing. But then he sees like another little kid walking kind of near them, but he doesn't think of it. It's like one of those, bring your child to work day. So there's a bunch of kids working around, and it's like an open office. So there's kids he sees running around all the time. But the story is he's the only one. Him and my boss's daughter are the only ones that can see this little boy, because that's the ghost. That's Thomas. It's even though she's grown up, it's followed her around. But what happens is that he has the sight, or he has the gift of the curse, if whatever you want to call it, that he can see this kid. And my boss's daughter realizes that, and I don't know if it's going to be like a trick in some way that it's like the thing in the haunting stories. There's a recent one about this guy who was a writer in Queens, New York. It's like a recent story for a couple of years ago. They made it into a movie where this little boy that had like a dent in his head. It was a ghost that like had a dent. It was a little boy, and the ghost had a dent in his head, and he kept like coming around this guy's apartment and haunting him. It's like the curse of the ghost who the ghost pays attention to or tries to connect with, or, ghosts have these like unsolved things they need you to do. They get attached to a person, but whatever it is gets passed over to my character. And my boss's daughter is kind of free. I don't know if she knows that she did that or my character did that, or whatever happens. It gets passed on to him, and my character, of course, you have that scene where he's alone in the office or something like that. He's working late, and the bring your kids to work day is done, but he keeps randomly seeing it's that scene where, you see the back of my character sitting at his desk and something runs past him or something like that. He's like, why is there a kid still here? But then you realize, the kid is kind of, I forgot how they say it. They whatever, the curse of the spirit is on my character now, and it's following him around this office, but he's not sure, he's new to this building or something like that. And you have that scene where he's the last one there, and he's locking up, and he looks back through, there's like, glass windows or glass doors, and he sees like a little kid in there. He's like, why is there a little kid left who somebody else is working late? And then, he leaves because he's moved off. He's like, oh, maybe, somebody else is working late and their kid is, there with them after school. And he talks to somebody else, and they're like, no, you were the last person to leave. He's freaked out, and he realizes, that's why I said there's going to be either a toy company or it's going to be even spookier if it's a production company that does like a kids TV show, because the little kid will pop up on, the camera or something like that. But my character is still the only one who can see him, and it's freaking him out. And so that's the main thing I have so far, because with like ghost stories like this, it makes me think of The Sixth Sense, where the ghost has a purpose, especially in The Sixth Sense. The ghost of the little girl that was visiting Haley Joel Osment she needed him to find that secret tape of her mother poisoning her when she was alive. It has to be something like that. And I don't know what the purpose is yet. I don't know if it's like something like the story that my character was told by the boss isn't actually true, and he has to go back to their house somehow and find out the true story. Like there's something hidden in the walls or something like that. But there has to be like a purpose, because it can't just be a little kid running around haunting my character. It has to be something, or it has to be something. That's why I said it's a publishing house, and my character is a author of kids books. Like there's a story that needs to be told through my author. Like he's getting possessed somehow. He doesn't know how the words are coming to him, and he realizes this little kid, and he's writing this story of what happened to him through whatever means. Has to be something like that. Like there's a message that this ghost needs to portray, and that my character is somehow cursed or blessed, how you look at it. That has to be, transcribed through him. I have to get to that part. I don't know that part yet. Like I said, literally this story is new, kicking me in the head, and I need to figure it out. But yeah, that's what I have so far. I don't have a title. I don't have names. I don't have anything like that. I haven't even thought of like a cheesy title name for this. I haven't even like gone to AI to get their response to the prompt. But I'm gonna work on this. It's good. Like, I didn't know what kind of story to start this year out with, and this is a good one because it's kind of different. Because horror movies, usually around the other side of this year, fall into like early winter, but we're on the other side. So that's my kickoff for the 2025 A Ghost Story. It's going to be set in an office. So I'm gonna have to work this one out. But that's a good jump. Hopefully it's a good jump off. Hopefully a title will come to me soon. I need to start with a title. I need to go back and reread the early parts of Save the Cat. That's what I've been going off of if you listen to past episodes, because the whole purpose of this is kind of this is the first step. The next step is to me writing a script. That's one of the things I've written down to do this year. I really don't do New Year's resolutions. I write out a list of things I want to do for the year. And one of the things I want to do is take one of these ideas and actually write a physical script and send it in. Who knows what'll happen to it after that? It will be ignored, thrown in the trash. Who cares? For me, the big thing I want to do this year is actually write a spec script. First thing I need to do is find spec scripts of stuff that were successful or never done, and just to read and get an example. It's that thing where if you want to be an artist, you look at paintings from masters. If you want to be a writer, you kind of look at this for that Finding. Sorry to reference a fictional movie, but that Finding Forrest, the thing, you write the intro to something from a master writer, and because you learn how the artistry is built from their perspective, and then you find your own way. So I need to find some spec scripts to get that idea of just literally how it's worded, because I've from a small sample last year, I found like templates of scripts, but I need to see, what has been successful and how it's worded, and how it's structured and all that stuff. I need to learn how that's done so I could do it myself. You learn from the masters, then you find your own artistry. That's usually how it's done. But yeah, that's one of the things I want to do. Also, another thing I want to do, there's an idea. I'm going to revisit this one as one of these episodes, but this is long form idea I've had for, it's based in Miami, but it's based in the early 50s. It's actually, if you listen to my previous podcasts, called Stop Watching, it was an evolution from Stop Watching The Office. I had a podcast where the whole idea was me I'm sorry if I'm rambling. I'm getting towards the end of the episode. This is where I ramble. The genesis of this podcast was Stop Watching The Office, because I watched The Office too much as a coping mechanism. And I created a podcast called Stop Watching The Office, where I would try other media to get me off of The Office. That evolved into, sorry for that computer sound, but it evolved into me creating my own things. It was a few episodes and it kind of fizzled out. And then when I started this podcast, that was the genesis from that, trying to create. This is a story creation podcast. But there was an idea I had back then where, like I said, it was in Miami Beach in like the 50s. And there would be all these like, regular clubs and all this stuff, nightclubs, but you would have this alt scene and, with the drag and the LGBT community, where there was these kind of like whatever it was called with the prohibition. They had the secret clubs. The drag community and the LGBT community have these secret clubs away from, kind of the censure that was going on at the time, which is funny because it feels like that time is coming around again. And so you would see all these different clubs, and the long story would be all the different stories of people who were there from other areas who end up in, Miami Beach and, are escaping, tougher countries and communities and all this stuff. But they all came together to put on these amazing hidden shows. And there was a short story I wrote called Yuri Sits Alone. That was kind of the basis of that. It was a short story contest that I wrote it for, but it was like, had to be under a certain amount of words. So it was very like slimmed down. I want to take that. I didn't win anything, but I want to take that and rewrite it and restart that story again from that one, Yuri Sits Alone. So I'll definitely do another episode of that and put it on my website, dumbtestlake.com. That might be the spec script. that I do this year as part of my list, but who knows? I just want to stay creative this year. I hope you're staying creative this year. I hope you're staying happy so far this year. We're a weekend. I hope you're good. Hope you're good to yourself. Hope you're good to other people. Hope you're happy. Hope you're eating good. If you need a suggestion, may I suggest Big Pot Pasta? TM. But that's where I'll end it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for starting the year with me. I hope we hear each other again. You listening to me ramble on about my crazy ideas. I'll continue this one. Next one, I'll come up with a title and more in depth about like the current setting for this ghost story for 2025. But I'm Dumb Test Slate. Yeah, I'm Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Slate, and catch you on the next one. Bye bye.